Continuing the topic, this is a very serious situation when we learn that Russia, Vladimir Putin, put a bounty on the heads of American troops, and it doesn't appear as though the President of the United States did or is willing to do anything in the future in regards to this issue. So we need to talk to those that it really affects the most. Of course, we're talking about our soldiers, right? We just had Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton on, a decorated war hero. He's a very modest guy. He doesn't like it when I say that, but he is. He risked his life for this country. And I told him that we have a Gold Star mom on, and he wanted to send his regards and his thanks to this woman and the suffering that she's had to go through because her son was killed in Afghanistan back in 2011. Her name is Dr. Becky Whetstone. As I mentioned, a Gold Star mother. She went on social media a few days ago, and here's what she said. She said, quote, "My son was a Marine killed in Afghanistan. If I learned Russia put a bounty on his life and the U.S. didn't take serious, decisive action, then hell hath no fury like a mother scorned. Bless the families who face this reality." That woman, Dr. Becky Whetstone, joins us right now on the line. Dr. Whetstone, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm fine, and thank you for having me. It's really wonderful to have a voice, so I appreciate it.
Let me be very clear here. If there's anybody that deserves a voice, it is you and your family with the pain and suffering that you've had to go through. Your son, obviously a hero, who risked his life, who paid the ultimate sacrifice for this country. So let me just say it is an honor to have you on the show. Let me just start by saying that. We just had Congressman Seth Moulton, former Democratic presidential candidate, who sends his regards to you and your family as well. Let me start, before we get to this situation with Russia and U.S. troops, can you give me a little bit of background on your son? And I wish it was under better circumstances. I know this is a painful thing for you to talk about, but just to give our listeners a little bit of background, if you may, what took place back in Afghanistan in 2011, the circumstances surrounding the tragedy with your son?
He was 24 years old at the time, and he was a Marine Scout sniper, and he and his platoon walked all night long with big, heavy backpacks and stuff to get to a location which apparently was kind of a horseshoe-shaped ridge looking down on a kind of canyon area. And there was a bunch of Marines all over that ridge. And so they had, a constant communication telling everybody where they are. And apparently some of the communication equipment was down, and so some people didn't get his platoon calling in and going, we're over here. And so they were trying to clean out some Taliban snipers that had been menacing some of the Marines and military folk in the area. So their job was to clean that out, and so they had killed one. I think there was two of them. They'd killed one, and they were trying to get the second one, and so they're just patiently aiming their guns out there. And there was a tank commander and gunner, some distance behind where my son's group was, and they couldn't visually see them. But again, my son's group kept announcing their location and all that. Well, one of them saw a flash of gunfire. One of the tank people saw a flash of gunfire over to his right, and he thought that might be the second Taliban man. So he asked the tank commander for permission to shoot, and he gave it to him, even though they couldn't see the target. And so the gunner shot his machine gun 5 seconds 2 times and killed my son.
Oh no. That's just horrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. I can't imagine what you and your family have had to go through.
And the only good thing about it was that he was the only one injured or hurt at all. The rest of them, I've talked to several of them that were there, and they all cannot believe they're alive.
Wow, that's a miracle in itself. In a way, your son risked his own life not just for this country, but for his own comrades in battle. I mean, you could think of it that way as well. Obviously, your son's a hero. That doesn't bring him back. I can't imagine the pain and the suffering, like I said, that your family has gone through. And I hate to make you relive this, but I feel like, in a sense, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, Donald Trump, in a way, is making you relive it, the pain. When you first heard this story, Becky, of Vladimir Putin and Russia putting a bounty on U.S. troops, and then learning as the days have gone by, almost a week now, that it is a strong possibility of either one of two things. Either the president didn't bother to read the 10-page report, or he just decided to not do anything about it for whatever reason. What went through your mind when you heard this?
Just insane, rageful anger, because most Gold Star parents or loved family members, are going to quickly do the math in their head that if this was my child, their life is in danger over there. And it's in danger anyway. But hey, let's do everything we can to keep them as safe as possible. And when someone's motivated to make possibly $100,000 to kill an American, they're bored on a Wednesday afternoon, they might just go looking for some trouble. So it just makes parents uneasy, that their loved ones' lives are in jeopardy, and that it's something that could be punished, could be stopped, and the president seems apathetic about the situation. So to a Gold Star family member, it's like you're endangering us.
Right.
And those of us that have been through this pain know the continual anguish that the family goes through for years and years and years, and probably till the day they die. So I know what happened to me, and I know that if other Gold Star parents find out that their child died in this way because there was a bounty on their head, we could have done something about it, and we didn't. I know the torture that they are going to experience, in addition to the anguish you would feel anyway. So it's just torture. It's like it could have been prevented, and it wasn't.
Exactly. And I want to ask you.
A needless death.
Mm-hmm.
So as a mother who's been there, I'm kind of screaming from the rooftops saying, on behalf of my potentially future Gold Star parents and family members, no. We got to get to the truth, and we got to do, and if it is true, we got to do something decisive about it, because it's the only right thing to do.
Well, and like I said, as far as truth goes, it's one of two things, right? It's either he didn't read it, or, for whatever reason, he just didn't do anything about it. I wanted to ask you, we just had Seth Moulton, Massachusetts congressman and a decorated war veteran himself. He said, when he was deployed in Iraq, even though he didn't agree with George W. Bush, didn't agree with his politics, didn't even agree with the war, but he felt like George W. Bush had his back, that George W. Bush wasn't going to put the troops recklessly in harm's way. And I would imagine, and you correct me if you're wrong, did you guys feel the same way when your son was deployed under Barack Obama? Did you feel the same way that, whether you agreed with the president or not, you didn't feel like Obama was going to put the troops in harm's way for no reason and would be decisive?
Well, sort of. Sort of. Because my son had been, and first of all, I know, Obama's relying on advice from his generals and stuff, right? And so that's one thing. And, I trusted Obama very much. However, my son came back from his first deployment and told me that so much reckless management was being done of the troops, and troops were being needlessly maimed and killed because of needless tasks and assignments that many of the military were given that harmed them, and the things they were doing were not important or necessary. So my son actually told me, Mom, if I get killed, it's probably going to be because someone did something stupid.
Oh, God, isn't that horrible for a parent to hear? That's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that.
So then when that's exactly what happened, you can imagine the rage that I felt. So my son told me that he when he felt like killing somebody, he wanted to kill his upper officers, the boss, his immediate, whatever you call them, the captains, right, or
Right.
the higher ranking decision makers, and because, like, one of his best friends got his legs blown off, and my son was, and it was on one of those needless little things they sent them out in the fields to do, and my son was like, this shouldn't have happened. This man was needlessly maimed, and that really changed my son's life. It really made him become cynical about the war, and he was kind of anti-war, and just trying to finish his time in the Marines and get out.
Isn't it horrible that your son was so brave, such a hero, that he was willing to risk his own life, and it ended up ending his life for this country, and then he had to have those thoughts. And by the way, I believe everything your son said. I don't doubt that for 1 second. And it's disgusting, and that's why I do agree that war should be a last resort. We all, I think we all can agree that the war in Iraq should have never happened in the first place. And now we have Russia and Vladimir Putin apparently putting a bounty on U.S. troops' heads. It's disgusting. It's terrible. I want to give you an opportunity now, and I guess this would be my last question. I think it's the most important one. Can you talk a little bit about your son? For people out there that never had an opportunity to meet your son, they've heard stories, of course, about your son. I know you were recently on CNN and you spoke about your son. But for people that never got a chance to meet your son, 24 years old, right? Can you just tell me a little bit about him? What kind of person was he growing up, and how should people remember him by?
Well, he was hilarious and had an exuberant, charming, outgoing personality. He was really beloved by people. It's like he cast a spell on people. And I even said to him about, in the last year of his life, I said, do you realize how many people just friggin' adore you? It's out of control. And he said he did realize it. So that has brought me some comfort. And then I have been every Memorial Day weekend except this year, because of the COVID, many of his platoon buddies come spend the weekend with me, and we talk about Benjamin. We cry, we laugh, we drink, and I mother them, and they call me Mama, and it's so sweet. But I have videotaped some interviews with them about them talking about him, and they've shown me who he was as a Marine, which is something I never could have known. But Benjamin didn't tell me these things, but they told me that, Benjamin made captain like so fast, so rocket lightning fast, that he was kind of a legend among the scout snipers. So they said when he was going to join their group, they were saying, like, who is this guy? And then they just said he was extremely talented and hardworking and all that stuff. But they said that to them, they looked up to him because he was a voice of reason and compassion. They said he would not join in the conversations of negativity, of diminishing people, of being contemptuous of people.
Well, I need to take a lesson. I should take a lesson from your son on that. That's for sure.
I know. So, and I've just been so grateful for these stories because, that I felt he was special, but I'm a mom, and every mom thinks that. But they have really driven home to me that he was a role model for them.
It certainly sounds that way, no question.
And they were crushed when he got killed, crushed.
Well, we should all be crushed when we lose anyone in battle. Make no mistake about it, your son will always be known as a hero. He risked his life, and he paid the ultimate price for this country. I'm sorry for the pain that your family is going through, as they always say, and I know it doesn't make the pain any better, but let your memories be a blessing. And we will not forget your son or anyone that has lost their life on the battlefield or has been injured. But make no mistake about it, your voice needs to be heard. Please keep up the good fight. And thank you so much for everything you and your family has sacrificed for this country. I cannot thank you enough, Becky. And thank you so much for sharing your story and your son's story. We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I thank you so much. And any of you, if you ever meet a Gold Star family member, ask them, tell me about your child, because we love talking about them and keeping their memory alive. So I'm very thankful that you had me on your show today and gave me that opportunity.
It was our pleasure and my honor, to be quite frank with you, Becky. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That is Dr. Becky Whetstone, Gold Star mom, speaking of her son who lost his life battling in Afghanistan. And, when I do interviews like that, it's never easy. But her voice deserves to be heard, her family, and she makes some very valid points. I don't want to make it political, but she has a right to voice her opinions about this whole situation with Donald Trump and the way he's handled this. And, it's a complete opposite. I didn't always agree with George W. Bush. I didn't agree with the war in Iraq. But with that being said, you can still respect the president. You can still respect the presidency. It's very hard to respect this president when he's out there calling this thing a hoax, when we all know it wasn't a hoax. We all know this is a real story. We all know it's true. Now, whether the president knew about it or not, don't know that. But the fact that the White House is now saying that they're not doing anything about it is a mess.